What's up guys, Amadi here, and we're going to be doing a video today on what would be my personal experience as it relates to how am I currently making a 100k salary in IT, and I only have, well, now it's 3 years of experience, but how did I get it when it was only 2 years of experience? That was starting in 2018, and 2020 or 2020 is when I got my first job as a six-figure salary. Right, so I want to dive straight into it. I don't want to take too much time getting into it, but what I do want to do is I want to give you guys some disclaimers. The first disclaimer is this is not a guaranteed guide, right? This is not the guide that's going to be like, oh, do this and you'll get there, right? There's always going to be different aspects and parameters that play a part in seeing if you can get to that 100k salary with only 2 years of experience, right? Number two, this is my personal experience, right? So this is just how I got there. I can only tell you what I've been through. I can't tell you other people's experiences, but I can tell you mine, and I can tell you, for one, it is possible. Three, you don't need a college education in IT. A lot of people may think that you need a college degree, but I don't have a college degree in information technology. My degree is in jazz studies. Bruh. Jazz studies, right? So when people see that on my resume, they don't ask me about that. They ask me, okay, well, what can you do, right? They see that certification up there. So no college degree necessary. And lastly, you don't need to know someone, right? You don't need to know someone who's in the field necessarily to get a job, because there's a lot of jobs in IT, especially during COVID. It may be a little tougher with COVID just because some HR departments have kind of stopped hiring, but that doesn't mean IT is not expanding. This field is still expanding, and it's going to continue to expand, and jobs will always be available in this field. So you shouldn't have too much of a hard time getting in there. All right, so let's do it. I'm going to show you how to get 100k salary with only 2 years of experience, right? So diving straight into it, taking you back to 2018. I was working a hotel job in college, playing trombone on a jazz band and whatnot, and doing some, church musician gigs, getting some side money, get my hustle on, right? And I was making okay money. It wasn't bad. I was self-sustaining. I had no family out there where I was, because I moved from South Carolina to North Carolina to attend school, and that's where I got like my job and whatnot, as far as like the hotel and the church. So then reality hit, right? My girlfriend was about to graduate, and she had already solidified her first, professional job out of college, and that thing was making over 60k, right? And I was like, what am I about to do? Like, she's about to be flexing on me, right? Like, I'm not making that much right now. I'm making maybe a third of that, so she out the gate was making that, and I was like, yo, what am I about to do? So I didn't want to be in a situation where I was allowing her to make more. I don't have anything against females making money. I personally, as I'm a traditionalist in the sense that I want to make sure I'm the provider, right? So I want to make sure I'm in a situation where I'm earning more, so that way she doesn't have to feel the burden and the weight of dealing with money, right? She can kind of like keep that to herself, right? And I just make sure, she has a house to live in, she got her clothes, she got food on the table and whatnot. That's kind of what that's traditionalist. That's me, right? I'm not saying no one, you want to do something different, that's you, and there's no problem with that, right? So that was the situation. So I decided I was gonna call up Pops, right? I was like, oh, Pops is her dad, right? So I called up Pops. I said, Pops, so old girl's about to be making, some moolah, and I'm not trying to be, behind her. Like, I want to keep up, you know what I mean? And Pops was like, yo, if you know anything about IT, or if you want to get into IT, pick up a book. There's this thing called Cisco, and Cisco has certifications that you can you can obtain, and that could help you potentially get into the field. So I was like, bet, like I'm gonna check that out, right? So I went on ahead, I picked up the book, and I was like, all right, cool, let me look at this, you know what I mean? And when I looked at the material, it wasn't that hard. I looked at it, I was like, okay, cool, this is what this is, this is what that is, right? And I was getting it, I was like, okay, cool, so let me study this. So I took the time when I was at the hotel, and I was studying almost the entire shift at the hotel. I worked night shifts, right, at the hotel. So I was doing night shifts, I was going to church, right, as a musician, and I was still doing college full time. So you can imagine how all, chaotic this was at a particular time. But in about 6 months, I felt comfortable, right? This is my last semester. I went on ahead and graduated in the winter of 2017 2017, right? So I graduated in the winter of 2017, and I went on ahead and decided to go on ahead and take the test, right? January came, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go on ahead and let's see if I can do this, right? I took the test, and Lord Jesus, I was so happy that I passed it on my first try. Right now, I mean, you may think success kind of looks like this, but I was kind of like, whew, thank you, Jesus. I didn't know if I was gonna make it out of that test. Like, that's honestly how I got out of that test. But I was able to go on ahead and take that exam, and that's when I got my CCENT, right? That's the Cisco Certified Entry Network Technician, right? That doesn't no longer exist. It's only the CCNA now, but I did later on get my NA like the next year. But I started with a CCENT, right? So that's 2018. And 2018, I went on ahead and started applying. I was like, all right, cool, let's go on ahead and apply. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I felt like a prostitute because I was just throwing my resume out there, right? By the way, I went and got my resume done professionally, right, to make sure my resume looks good. But I was throwing my resume out there. I was applying everywhere. Didn't matter what it said, I was just applying. As long as it said entry level network engineer, technician, not any of that, I was just applying, right? And so I got my first opportunity. It was with the Select Group, right? And they went on ahead and interviewed me. I knocked that joint out the park. Like, I was killing it technically, I was killing it culturally, like I was doing my thing, right? And after that, I was able to solidify the job, and they was paying me $15 an hour. I was like, cool, got my first IT job, bet, right? So I'm in there, right, at Cisco, and I'm still in North Carolina, but I needed to get up to Virginia because my girlfriend had moved to Virginia for her job, right? So I was like, all right, cool, I got to get up there, right? So about 8 months in, I decided, I was like, all right, cool, let me see if I can get up there, right? So I started applying again, right? Got my 8 months of experience, hands-on, as a NOC Tier 1 with the Select Group, contracted to Cisco, and I was able to solidify a position with Skyline Technology Solutions, right? And Skyline was a Tier 2 position as a part of the network operations team, right? And that was how I was able to get up to Virginia. They was paying me $23.47, right? I don't recall how much that is in salary, but it was somewhere around the 40 something range, right? So I went from $15 an hour to $23.47 an hour, right? And that was with only 8 months of experience, right? So after that, I was like, all right, cool, so what am I about to do now? I didn't like the night position joint. It was kind of messing up a couple of things for me, so I was like, all right, cool, let me look around, let me see what we got, right? And I was able to pick up another contract position, right? So this was with corporate brokers, and this was helping support Discovery Channel. And Discovery Channel, that was pretty cool. That was a network operations engineer position, and I was over there killing it. Like, I liked it at Discovery. The people over there was really cool. Made a couple of cool connects there and whatnot, and I was able to get my hands on a lot more stuff than I was able to at some of the other places, right? So they was paying me $60K on the dot, right? I don't recall how much that is an hour, but it was $60K on the dot, and I was like, dope. You know what I mean? Like, and by the way, I still did my church thing when I moved up to Virginia, so I was still banking like, close to $1,000 a month just with church, right? Being a church musician. And after that, I went on ahead. After about, I want to say, roughly another couple of months, I had just hit 2 years of experience, right? And that was while I was at Discovery. And then Discovery decided, hey, we gotta make a hard call. They were deciding to outsource their IT network, so I had to find another job, because by October of 2020 I would have to go, right? And this is the year that I have 2 years of experience. I am making $60K, right? And this was January, I found out, in 2020, right? So March of 2020 is when it marked 2 years. So this is what happened, right? So when they told me in January at Discovery that, hey, you got to find another job, I was like, all right, bet. So I started throwing my resume out there. COVID started happening, so I was having opportunities come through, but a lot of them just kind of stopped because of COVID. So then next thing you know, this is where I believe luck played a big part of this, and I believe in a higher being just kind of intervened. And I got a phone call from a group called ITT Direct, and they was like, hey, we got a job with the federal government, and we looked at your resume, and we want to see if this would be a good fit. I looked at it, and they was looking for someone to support a Cisco network engineer tier 3. Network engineer, not operations, engineer tier 3, which means this is at least 5 years of experience, 5 to 7 years of experience, because this is more of a senior level position. And that would mean that I skipped about 4 positions, kinda, because I was only a tier 2 at Discovery as a network operations. You didn't have to go to tier 3, which is, you can now be somewhat considered a network engineer. Tier 4, you would be like a network engineer tier 2, and then you go on to network engineer tier 3, meaning that you're now getting closer to subject matter expert. You're not the subject matter expert, but you're supporting the subject matter expert. So that's where I was right up under there, right? So I was like, all right, cool. So, and they told me, they was like, yeah, it's going to be paying 100K on the dot. 100K on the dot, right? This is where I believe luck played a part. I didn't even really go through an interview. I talked on the phone with one of the reps from the federal government, and because I prepared so well for what they was asking for, I looked at what the requirements were, and I said, all right, I may not know all of this stuff, but what I'm gonna do is go do my homework on it. And when I did all my homework and then got to the interview, which was a phone conversation with the main representative, they felt so confident in how I presented myself that they was like, yeah, this is the guy, let's go on ahead and do it, right? So here's the side, here's some context. There was another guy who was actually they was actually looking at, who was military, and that guy ended up turning it down because it wasn't fitting his time, and then they just kind of defaulted to me as the next best thing. And that's how I got 100K salary with only 2 years of experience, right? Federal contract. I was there. It was really cool. I enjoyed myself. And you know, it was nice. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty nice. You know what I'm saying? But was kind of feeling himself. You know, I'm from the hood, so you know, hood we don't know 100K salaries like that sometimes. So, anyways, point being is that's how I got there, right? And currently I don't work for the federal government. I went to another job, and this one's full time now. And which this one's kind of funny. I was making 100K with the federal government, and then when I took this full-time position, which is what I wanted to be somewhere where I didn't have to move around anymore. They named the salary at 90K, and when I got my first paycheck is more than what I was getting at Secret Service, and I think it had something to do with the fact that I was getting paid weekly with the contract versus bi-weekly with the salary, right? And then I also checked the hours. I'm actually working 48 hours, which is like 96 hours, right? So I guess, you know, that kind of made up the difference. So it's a 90K salary on paper, but it's really adding up to more than 90K. It's more like 102K. So very interesting. I still make 100K. That's what my bank account is saying, and I'm gonna kind of just run with that. But that's kind of how I got there, right? So, and I just want you guys to know, I only have one certification, and that's a Ccna. That's it. I don't have an MP professional. I don't have an IE expert level certification. I don't have multiple certifications. I have one. And I do pretty good with just that one, and that's mainly because I believe that I do very well on interviews, and that I do extremely well with presenting myself in a positive manner. And I work remote. I stay home. Like what you see back here, this is my office. This is my space, right? It's all in a matter of how you present yourself and how well you are able to nail that interview, right? So real quick, I'm gonna give you guys about 7 tips that I would say are the things that kind of help me get these jobs, right? So get to where I am now. So the first tip is get a cert. Don't go to college, right? Whichever field or area of interest that you're interested in, get a certification associated with it, because the certification is going to tell them I can do the job and I understand the fundamentals of what this job entails, right? A bachelor's just lets them know you're trainable, right? A certification lets them know I can do the job. You train me a little bit, but I got the rest, right? So get your certification. If you want to get into network engineering, you can look at Juniper Search. You can get the Network Plus, A+ certifications. You can get the Ccna, like what I did. If you're trying to get into programming, just look for the certs, and you should be fine with that. All right, so get you a cert. Tip number 2, I believe you need to have an amazing resume. And the reason I would say that is because in my personal experience, I literally got my first job because of my resume. Nothing else, my resume, right? And what do I mean by that, right? So what happened was, I was putting out the 200 and something applications. I believe it's like 268 of them. And I got a call from a guy who was a recruiter, and he said, "Hey, are you Chris?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And he simply said, "I just had to call you. I am very impressed by your resume. It looks very well put together." And I said, "Thank you, sir." Then after that, he proceeded to offer me an opportunity to come in for an interview for one of the positions he had. And I was like, wow, I mean, I'm glad that I put in, the money that I did and invested into getting someone to professionally write my resume. And after having that done, I now know how to update my resume by myself in a professional manner, so that way it continues to look very eye-catching, right? The material on there is very good, right? But most importantly, what you see is with my resume looks amazing just on the format alone. So in my personal experience, I believe tip number 2 is very important. Go on ahead and make sure you get that resume done. Definitely seek somebody who specializes in writing resumes. Tip number 3, properly prepare for your interviews. This does not mean get the right clothes and that's it, or just have just know what you're going to say before you go in. It's not really just that. When I say prepare for your interviews, technically prepare. This is IT we're talking about, right? So that would mean that when they say this is what we require for you to have knowledge on, and this is what we want someone who has experience in this, or someone who has knowledge of this, right? It's your job to make sure that each and every one of those bullet points, if you don't have the experience, find some. And I don't mean go out there and try to find another job or anything. What I'm saying is find out information on what is on that particular resume. So if you got some of the skills up there and it says something like, must have knowledge and experience in routing protocols, that's a part of your certification. So you'll have knowledge of it. You may not have experience, but know your routing protocols like the back of your hand, so that way when they ask you about it, you can respond accordingly. Prepare for your interviews, right? Classic example. Like I said, my job that I got right now, I researched like mess on that job, right? It was like Cisco ACI, vSphere, and Cisco Nexus switches, VXLAN. It was all of these technologies that I didn't really have experience in, but I took the time to go purchase a Udemy course to better equip myself with knowledge, so that way when they ask me about it, I can say, I don't necessarily have experience. I do have knowledge and information concerning it. For example, I understand that this is this and that is that, and how this works and how that works. And I proceed to go on in that manner when it's a particular skill that I don't have experience in, but I went on ahead and did research on, right? Another thing is, if you know who the person is that is going to be interviewing you, look up their LinkedIn profile, right? Like, check and see what their experience was. This is something I did on my last job. They said, hey, you're going to be meeting with the director of network support, or the network team, basically, network infrastructure. He's the director, basically, and his name is blah, blah, blah. And I went on ahead, I was like, cool beans, this is my last step before I figure out if I got a job or not. Let me go on ahead and figure out who this guy is on LinkedIn. And I went on his LinkedIn, I looked at all of his experience, and I went on ahead and was like, okay, let me jot this down so that way when it comes time to like start talking, I can say, hey, I saw you worked here and whatnot, and you was there for this amount of time. How was that? Or hey, I'm really impressed by how far you've came from, you know, your first job in IT. That's something I definitely look up to, and I see that being something, you know, worth expanding upon, as far as, you know, what can I learn from somebody who's been through these experiences. When I was able to talk like that on the interview with that guy, what do you think happened? Got a job, you know what I mean? So you really gotta make sure you're doing your best to prepare for your interviews, right? Tip number 4, make sure you're using websites like LinkedIn and Indeed when you're looking for these jobs. That's where I've applied most of the time, and that's where I get most of my traffic. I have not looked anywhere else. I didn't use ZipRecruiter or whatever else is out there. I only used LinkedIn and Indeed. The pretty cool thing about Indeed is, like I say, to make it very quick for you to apply. You can hit the ones that say apply now and put your resume up there. It instantly puts your resume there. All you got to do is answer like 1 or 2 questions, and then bam, you've applied, right? Same thing with LinkedIn. You can actually set a filter on those where it will say, I only want the ones that will let me apply within 2 seconds right now, right? Rather than going through the intensive process of filling out every single detail that they need for an application on the company's website, you can just do the apply now, and that will save you time in the application process. So that way you feel as though, you know, you're actually getting some work done. And that's been my method, right? That was my only method. Tip number 5. You want to be looking for the contracted gigs. So in IT works a little different than other industries, right? Information technology is very different. It is okay for you to work a job for 6 to 8 months and then move on, right? Because there's a lot of contracted work. There's not a lot of full-time opportunities out there like it used to be, where a lot of companies just picked up somebody and said, yeah, he's our IT guy, and we want him to stay with the team full-time. They don't do that as much. There's a lot of companies who are now outsourcing their IT department to a third-party company, and they're utilizing contracts to gain employees that will then be paid a lower rate. Yes, a lower rate, but you will still get the job, right? And sometimes these contracts pay higher than what you would get on a full-time position, right? Definitely look for ones that say like 6 months contractor to full-time, or 6 months contract can be extended, or extension possible type deal. Those are the ones you want to kind of look at, because those are going to be the jobs that help you get your foot in the door. Tip number 6. Find a way to get some hands-on experience. This is going to be very important, because IT is not the type of industry where hands-on experience is easy to come by, right? You're not going to just have someone walk up to you and say, hey, go configure this router for me if you feel like it, right? Or hey, you feel like doing some IT stuff? No one's going to just walk up to you and do that. So the easiest way for you to do this is to just simply go on eBay. For example, if you want to do network engineering work like what I do, you can go to eBay and you can find routers, switches, bridges, right? And they'll be cheap for like $33 to get your hands on the Cisco, Cisco 3800 series? I forgot which one it was. It's the 29 series, 2950s, I believe. And the Catalyst switches. Like, you can really get your hands on those for stupid cheap. Just go to eBay, and then once you get those devices, go on ahead and start playing around with them physically. Go on ahead and get the cable that you need so you can plug it up to your laptop, and then start playing around with the commands, right? Get you a router so that way you can start understanding how to deal with routers and how to deal with routing versus switching, because those are two different concepts you would need to know. But find a way to get hands-on experience. If you're trying to be a programmer, go on ahead and get the software that programmers are using and get your hands dirty with some projects. There's plenty of people who have done this on YouTube who can give you some examples, but make sure you're finding a way to get some hands-on experience. It looks really good to the employers when they see, when you are able to say, hey, I don't have hands-on experience as far as the job experience is concerned, but I did take the time to go on eBay, find some network devices, and get my hands dirty, so that way I can really and truly understand what happens when I actually plug the cable in, take the cable out, run this protocol, and then take the cable out, or the device fails and I was running this protocol. So make sure you're finding a way to gain some experience. even though you don't have the job experience, right? Tip number 7, someone asked me about passing tips, like how to take the exam and all of that stuff, just, study material and all that. Get the book, like for example, I got a Cisco certification. I got the Cisco Press book, the book that was certified by Cisco, that this is the book you need to be looking at, right? So start with a book. That might not seem like the most entertaining, but the book has all of the information, right? And then from there, I also supplemented that with videos. I went to Udemy and utilized Udemy to help me fill in the dots, or connect the dots and fill in the gaps that I felt as though I was really lacking in, right? So Udemy, the book, I was also utilizing other test prep materials, like Measure Up was the very first practice exam that I was utilizing, and I felt as though that really helped me a lot, right? So, and if you guys want some more information as far as what materials I've used, go on ahead and just send me a link, or what I can try to do is post some of the stuff in the description below, and you can just utilize those guys that I personally used to get from where I was to where I am now. And other than that, that wraps it up. So, that's how I got, from making 20K or so to 100K. I was able to quadruple my salary within 2 years, and it took a lot of, I'm not gonna lie to you, this was hard work. This was not something that came necessarily easy to me, but it was something that was fulfilling while I was doing it, while I was putting in the work and time. I felt as though I was doing something that was going to help me change my life for the better. And now I can finally say I am a walking 6-figure African American male who is only 27, and that's not common to come by. I'm raised from the hood, 215 Monticello Road, Columbia, South Carolina. You don't hear that a lot from guys who are coming out of that area, right? So for me to finally obtain something like this at this age, I see that as an achievement in itself, and I encourage those who are going through the same thing, who feel as though they don't know what they were trying to get into when they were starting out in college and whatnot, because like I said, I graduated, but I still have a passion for jazz, and that's something I want to keep doing, but I do want to make sure I'm secure, and that's something that's very important to me. So like I said, if you guys got any questions for me, definitely put it in the comments below. Also subscribe if you've not already subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button. It is free. It definitely helps the channel grow, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. If you got anything else that you need from me, you can always just hit me up. Take it easy, guys.
And we all just wanna have fun, yeah. And we all just wanna have fun, yeah. Napping, cracking, popping like a fuego. I see you pop eyes at me like a new edition pollo. Late nights in the studio, vibing in my dojo. Charmer with my chivalry, finessing with the mojo. Got access to the masses, get your weight up, blood the colo. ABC just closed, turning up with F logo. Started from a 2-piece to a ultra combo Jago. Had to do the Heisman on my exes, hit the turbo.